My guest today is David Flores Wilson. David is a managing partner at Sincerus Advisory, where he helps entrepreneurs, tech professionals, and business owners build and protect their wealth, optimize business exits, and achieve financial freedom. Named on Investopedia, top 100 financial advisor in 2019 and 2020. His financial expertise has been featured in CNBC, the New York Times, Kiplinger, and Investment News. A certified exit planning advisor, he specializes in equity compensation planning, tax-efficient wealth strategies, and strategic philanthropy. Thanks so much for being here today, David.
Wonderful to be here. Looking forward to the conversation, Diane.
Absolutely. So we're doing 3 quick tips. And the first one, my first question that I have for you is this. Can you explain why traditional financial planning doesn't always work for entrepreneurs and what alternative approaches they should consider instead?
Yeah, I mean, business owners and entrepreneurs are different, right? And so they deserve a different type of approach when it comes to financial planning. They aren't exchanging time for money. They're building equity in their businesses, and their businesses typically are, something they care about deeply and emotionally. And so, they need financial planning that addresses both themselves, that business, as well as their families and goals. And so, it's a different process. And I think that when you kind of start with the end in mind of kind of where they want to head in terms of selling the business, doing a succession or otherwise, a lot of the best planning can be done up front.
Okay. So that leads me to my second question, which is, how does the complexity of equity compensation affect an entrepreneur's long-term wealth planning, and what strategies can help optimize it?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because most of our industry talks about, you got to diversify, you got to take money out of your business. And, that's such a foreign concept to founders, right? They're putting so much of their life in this potentially, they might be VC backed or bootstrapped or whatnot. And so, it's a very binary outcome for them oftentimes, as they work their sort of 80, 90 hours a week for years on end. And so, I think the traditional sort of advice that they're always given is like, hey, you need to take money out of that business, diversify as soon as you can. And it's the very opposite of what they've chosen for their career. And so, we work with them, and yes, it's, there's different sort of tax strategies that they can use, both on the structure of their business, in terms of the, the type of entity, as well. They should be, of course, working with, their planner and their accountant on, taking the right deductions and credits, as well, when it comes to also, same kind of thing of kind of thinking, what's the end in mind, and what are they sorts of, how can we be optimizing working backwards, right? In terms of structures, like, are they thinking about philanthropy? We should be educating them about philanthropy. Are they thinking about, their, other goals for their family, and, sort of other ways we can save money on taxes? And I think that it's, entrepreneurs, they're pulling a lot of different directions. And so, we got to be very quick and effective when we're speaking to them, and sort of address the most high value financial planning topics. And for some people, that's, this is a little bit of a quirk in the tax code, is what's called qualified small business stock. And so business owners, if they sell their business and they meet certain qualifications, they can get a $10 million exclusion from the capital gains of on the sale of their business. And so the planning has to be in place years ahead of time. And, there are different pitfalls along the way. And so, those are some of the things that we want to talk to founders and owners about as they go on their entrepreneurial journey.
Wow. Okay. I did not know that. And I think that is key. And it does speak to being able to look at the whole landscape, from a different lens. So my third question is around the philanthropy issue. You mentioned it a minute ago. Can you explain how philanthropy fits into this planning strategy, and what business owners and entrepreneurs should be looking at?
Yeah, I think everyone is on their own journey, right? When it comes to philanthropy and
Sure.
charitable giving. And so what we often see is that people are being so reactionary, right? They might, they graduate from college and then they might, be participating in their alumni and give back to their, college or university. They have some kids and then, they're spending, a lot of time with their kids on their sort of school events. And so, they're starting to donate to activities around those institutions, and then over time people kind of get a little older, and we want to get them more intentional, right? And so we have a whole process that sort of starts with, okay, let's understand what are the causes that you really care about, and then let's connect those to the type of organizations that you think that you want to contribute to. And I think that there's this concept of a charitable risk tolerance, right? Because I think some people, they want a 100% guaranteed impact on an established organization. Maybe it's national, where other people, they want to, take a flyer on a bigger topic, but maybe a less stable organization, maybe a upstart organization. And so we help them sort of figure out that risk tolerance, and then make those gifts and help them monitor nonprofits as well. And then along the way, of course, it's best that they can be tax efficient in their giving, and that way, they'll be able to give more. And so, there's a lot of different strategies and techniques that we love to sort of impart to business owners, that as well, when they move towards a liquidation event, or they're selling their business, they can time some big gifts if they've sort of done the work up front and they know what they're passionate about. And then we can also minimize the tax burden of a sale or any sort of a liquidity event. So.
And that is key, right? You want to be able to accomplish both.
Yes, yes. And,
Yeah.
it's interesting too, because, as entrepreneurs are going through their journey, they know they want to give back. They're pulled in a lot of different directions.
Right.
And so they haven't done the thinking around, what's important to them. And, they sort of have to dabble first before they want to write those big dollar checks.
Sure.
So, being part of that discovery process is super, super fulfilling for me, right? And I think that because they can be more effective and more intentional, and get really educated on this process. And so, I think of course, there's different charity rating systems out there, and I think, frankly, many of them are flawed, right? There's certain criteria they have, and it says, okay, well, if you spend X amount on overhead, then you're not as impactful as an organization. But if you can imagine a business that was evaluated on how much they spent on overhead, that would be quite silly, right? And so, want to look at it from a more impactful perspective when we're looking at nonprofits that they want to be giving to. So.
It's very interesting. Boy, David, I so appreciate these 3 quick tips. Will you let the listeners know how they can find you, please?
Sure. They can just find me on the website. The firm is Sinceris Advisory, and so it's sincerisadv.com. And there, you can book a call as well. There's a blog there that's has useful, planning tips and techniques and strategies for business owners.
Excellent. Thank you. And listeners, thank you. You are who we're doing this for.